Hey guys, we're starting off with a new series here. This is going to be on financial well-being. Let's get into it. We're going to protect what matters, starting with your sanity, okay? This is going to be a new series on 5 different pillars that we go through with a lot of our clients. It's going to be an introductory video and looking to probably break down some of these things with a little bit more detail as we get into the series. First area is going to be credit. I started building my credit since I was about 18 years old. One of the first things I remember my mom telling me is, hey, make sure that you build your credit and you pay your payments on time and that you don't into debt. Now that may sound pretty straightforward and obvious, but there's a whole lot to navigate around that. Probably we'll get into that one with a more specific video, but what I'll touch on is we do help with credit repair. That's an ancillary service that one of our partners does help with, and so we usually do a 10 to 15 minute educational conversation with anyone that's interested on talking about those areas to take a look and see where maybe we can help boost the credit score or help steps and strides towards making improvements to the credit. Second area we talk about is life insurance. Now, obviously, we do a lot of life and health products through our business, and the average American has 6 life insurance policies, with an average 3 out of 4 individuals having a life insurance policy throughout their lifetime. Third area is going to be retirement. Now, that's a huge. In retirement, we have a lot of things that often go unaccounted for. Healthcare expenses being one of the largest contributors to miscalculations or not even having consideration for the cost of healthcare and long-term healthcare related costs as we enter retirement and live through retirement. Touch on a whole lot of other things as well: retirement funds, taxation, tax planning, tax mitigation, so on and so forth. And then, hey, if we're setting up our next generations for, a strong financial and a strong future overall, what does it look like saving up for, whether it be a college fund or a business starting fund or project fund, whatever it may be. We help families navigate setting aside dedicated and calculated amount so that they can build up something for whether it be their children, their grandchildren, so on and so forth. And then the fifth area I emphasize heavily is in estate planning. And a lot of people think that estate planning is an area that is just for the wealthy. It's beyond their means, beyond their needs. But, with an average of 230 probate cases being opened each day in every single state, so across 50 states, we have 230 cases being opened every single day. I don't know if that is like sitting for a moment and registering how widespread of an event this is, that we have families going into probate each and every single day. And what the process is and the timelines look like for all that. A little bit more on today's realities. We have a lot of financial knowledge that's maybe not well understood, never been shared, never been grasped, never really been spent a decent amount of time, a valuable amount of time to develop that understanding. So a lot of times that leads to unintended mistakes. I know myself, being someone who's a first generation graduate from my family of college, and really a first for many things in my family. We've made and we make mistakes continuously, and that's an area too that through my own experience I very much value. Now being where I'm able to make stronger financial sense and financial decisions. So there's fear and uncertainty. So what would it look like if you had known 10 or 15 years ago about scholarships, or some of the things that families grow up with as basic knowledge and information, just not having awareness of it, or not having the forethought to think forward, think through these things. We have half of households not having an individual life insurance policy, which in many cases, we hate to see it, but even just a couple of weeks back, I'm driving down Coast Highway, a local street in my area, and there's 4 or 5 people who have signs. Hey, we've got a car wash going on. We've got this going on. We're gonna raise some funds for someone who had just passed away, or people trying to sell flowers, different things to raise funds, food drives, this and that. Very, very just unfortunate. Not to mention too, we'll get into this in deeper topics, but how do we have an awareness for ways that we can use maybe life insurance policies to different advantages? Now, as far as consumer debt, it's staggering because we're over 1.4 trillion dollars in consumer debt. So we've been at since maybe the mid to late 2000s, early 2000s. We've got on average 4 to 5 credit cards, which actually in itself isn't bad. It's just the mentality around the credit card is like, are we using it to extend or stretch ourselves, or are we truly utilizing it as a tool in our arsenal to navigate financial decisions strategically, and strategically buy time and leverage? Now, as I mentioned with retirement planning, only about 54% of American families have a retirement account to begin with, and without any changes, what is Social Security going to look like? We have 2034 is one of the earlier years where we might already see impacts to the funding to be able to continue to make out payments to our retirees in this country, and I really see us in a retirement crisis as we speak. So we'll just take a quick look here at kind of like a difference here between a couple. Without any planning, we see families that have a bank account, checking, savings, a CD, maybe at times. Now, I'm not saying that's bad. Actually, in a lot of cases, why not continue to rent? It gives you a high degree of freedom, and obviously you're not building equity, so to speak. And now we're in a world where we have a 50-year mortgage. And again, I wouldn't be so opposed to that. Now, am I going to get a 50-year mortgage with the intent to spend 50 years paying it off? Absolutely not. What I would be interested in is maybe having an easier entryway, an easier opening into a property of my liking, something I could see myself having for, well, obviously the duration of my life, and then for generations to come. Because maybe for the first 10 or 15 years I am, paying that rate at 50 years, but then rapidly accelerating to pay it up and pay it down really by maybe 20 to 25 years. Again, that's just one different way of looking or thinking at it, as opposed to saying, oh my gosh, I'm going to be paying this for 50 years. Make sure you get the right sort of lending and funding, the right kind of mortgage that will allow you to pay down earlier without penalty or additional cost. But what we see again is individuals may still be working well into their late 60s and 70s and on. Whereas if we do a little bit of strategic information, education with our clientele or with people in general, we look at things like mutual funds, real estate, different ways to grow wealth or accumulate interest on our hard-earned dollars and make them work for us, build equity in real estate and insurance, whether that be insurance products or to cover unforeseen future events. Potentially looking at individuals that also may be homeowners, and hey, well, with all that pre-planning, if this starts in the 30s and 40s, maybe even 50s, we've got 10 to 15, 20 plus years to plan, course correct if need be, and ensure that people can retire at the age that they desire. Whether that be through helping to navigate, optimize a 401k plan, life insurance, balancing all these assets within your portfolio, having different types of IRAs or Roth IRA, looking at annuities. What even is an annuity? Isn't it just something to scam me out? That's what I hear sometimes. I think these days people are a little bit more keen or aware of the power of annuities. Again, is it a fit for everyone? Absolutely not, but in a lot of cases it could be. And then an area of really high regard at this point is revocable living trust and irrevocable too. They both have their places in their space. Yeah, some of the companies that we work with, and this is just both on the retirement annuity and insurance, long-term care, things of this nature. Obviously the life. Some of the insurance carriers that we work with, so I'm sure you guys are going to recognize Mutual of Omaha, CVS, more than likely Foresters and Transamerica, maybe Fidelity and Guarantee, or National Life Group. Okay, so take a look at this. We're looking at years until retirement and how much someone ought to be putting aside in order to reach $1 million retirement goal with an 8 rate of return, and this being tax deferred. Now, real quick in a nutshell, the rule of 72 is essentially saying, hey, if you divide the interest rate into 72, that's going to tell you how many years it's going to take to double your money. So if you have a 2% rate of return, it's going to take 36 years. 4% rate of return is going to take 18. If you had an 8%, that would be, double that. I don't want to misquote myself on awkward math. 7% though is going to tell you about 7 years, okay? So a little bit, very close to 7%. It's going to get you roughly a 7-year time horizon to double your retirement account, okay? And if you've got 5 years up until your retirement point, you're going to be wanting to spend $13,631 per month setting aside. That's like, that's after all other expenses. If you're not making $25,000 to $35,000 a month, I don't know if that's even a realistic figure. Looking at 50 for 60, let's say 30 years, drastic. We start to really drop off. 20s, 1,700 almost. 30s, 670. 40s, 215.57. And I think in a lot of situations, we can either find $215 or we have $215 that maybe we're setting aside, or maybe we're not. Maybe we're using that as luxury disposable, and things that we'll get into are ways, hey, how can we find that money in the budget, in the income, to make sure that we set that aside so that we can reach at the very least $1 million. I mean, what's $1 million going to be able to buy you in terms of buying power? We've seen a lot of inflation in the last, even 5 years. So just things to keep in mind. This last slide. Okay, we are touching here on Sun in Life. Okay, I know we get a lot of thoughts on IUL. I also like this concept of a whole life. Okay, here's how I'll differentiate the whole life from the Index Universal Life. First of all, we work with some of the best top-rated carriers, A, AA, AAA, or A+, A++ ratings in terms of their financials. So a lot of times these are companies that have stronger reserves than even most of the mainstream banks that we go to and bank with and get our checks deposited and so on and so forth on a bi-weekly, on a monthly basis. Biggest difference between an Index Universal Life and whole life that I'm going to mention here is going to be the way that the interest is accruing, or the way the cash value within that account grows. So, when you pay for one of these cash value accumulating accounts, one thing you're going to have is much of the premium that's going towards the actual service, the product that you're paying for, the insurance, the life insurance on your life, heaven forbid, something may happen to you. A second portion will be going into a cash value account. In the index policy, you're going to have an opportunity to participate in the growth of various markets through index funding, or index funds, whereas with the whole life, you're going to be taking participation in the growth of the company itself through a dividend that is earned and accrued throughout the year, and that will either pay up additional insurance and also build up some of the cash value in that policy as well. I would look at the whole life as something a little bit more flat, stable. That interest rate may fluctuate up as interest rates go up, and a little bit lower as interest rates drop. However, that's going to be more steady, more fixed. Whereas with an Index Universal Life, say that index option is lower than the value when you had the initial start of that crediting period. Oftentimes you're going to let that expire, go nullify to 0, and credit a 0% growth. And if it is up, you do have some portion of growth depending on the participation rate and the cap rate that is associated with that index. Start building cash value through a different type of account. And then when we look at term with living benefits or without living benefits, or a ROP, also a return of premium, that's what it stands for. So the biggest difference here, let's say we have a 20 to 30 year policy. Big difference is that at the end, you're going to basically get a refund for whatever percentage that you paid for in return of premium. Say you got a 50% return, you'd have overall an effective 50% cost of this coverage. So if you're paying $100 a month, the refund check would be $50 a month for the term of the policy. Full amount, you would get a full return of premium. Living benefits, those are going to be things like critical illness, other forms of, say disability, this and that. I mean, things we don't think of, things we don't foresee, but things that sometimes do happen, do slow us down or knock us down, and it does help and benefit to have some of these coverages in place. So with that, guys, as I like to say, we focus on protect. This is what what I've got for us here today with a little bit of an introduction on the 5 pillars of financial well-being. We'll get a little more into it as we continue with the series. So I'll go ahead and wrap up here and hope you guys enjoy the rest of the day. You guys survived another educational video. See you guys on the next one.